Indian startups, building AI-first products for the world, scaling technology to solve real-world problems, transforming ideas into impactful products and services. From generative AI to applied intelligence, this discussion will explore how founders are leveraging India's data scale, engineering depth, and digital infrastructure to innovate smarter. For this session, let me welcome on stage our first panelist, Samhita R, CEO Resilience AI, to please join in on the stage. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Samhita R. We also have Professor Ganesh Ramakrishnan, Lead Principal Investigator for BharatGen, to also join in. Warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining in. Gagandeep Reehal, co-founder -0, to also join in on the stage. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And we also have Reeju Datta, co-founder of Cashfree Payments, to join in on the show as well. For this session, I will be moderating this one along with my co-moderator, Palak Agarwal. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know half of the people have actually gone behind the minister, but this one is going to be an absolute promising one that you've stayed back for. When we talk about the startups ecosystem, India is seen as the world's third largest ecosystem for startups in the world. And when we talk about the kind of AI startups we already have 2,000 AI startups in India, with about, 277 or 227 actually, artificial intelligence startups, which have been built only in 2024 in 1 year alone. And that actually shows you the kind of pace that we are already at when we built AI startups. Samhita, I'm going to be starting off this conversation with you. One is the fact that everybody wants to know, yes, that in the last 5 years or so, there has been a tremendous surge of startups in India. And within that last couple of years, it's been the AI startups. But when it comes to finding out whether we are at a stage where we can be seen as global AI powerhouse, are we there yet? How far are we from that stage? Second of all, when we talk about startups, are they scaling enough to compete with global giants within this same artificial intelligence space from US, from China, all these companies that are already, within our own daily lives, we are using their apps, and we do see there is a gap that we don't see an Indian startup quite there yet. How are you looking at that challenge as of now?
Thank you so much, and huge applause to each of you for bringing us together, having a dialogue on AI startups. I said this before, I'm going to say it. I think we are leading the path and the world is following. I strongly believe in that notion, not just because the number does not lie, the number that you just said. 227 is not a small number. Go to these other countries and ask them how many is the count for them in 2024. I'm very certain we are leading and we are quite a trailblazer on it. So that number, it's itself a validation that globally, AI is an enabling mechanism that is being used very graciously, very cautiously, and yet at the same time very avidly. When I use these three words, I say that we are not just defining and using this in a very fast-forward manner. We are also using it with a lot of responsibility. And there are enough startups in that 227 which should speak volumes for where we are. The second question where you said the other countries and how are the other countries dealing with this entry level and places where India makes a difference is especially when they use advanced technology and not limiting to AI, but using AI, using machine learning tools, using SLMs and LLMs, using advanced formats of technology and inventing their own format in science-driven workflows. We are not just solving for point A to point B. We are solving for real-world problems. Like, for example, Resilience AI, the company I represent along with my co-founder, Sandeep Reddy, we are solving for natural disasters, which is highly scientific. There are startups which are called AI startups, but they're solving for healthcare. They're not solving for an early diagnosis of cancer, a raise of hand, at least I can tell from my side. I would love to have that diagnosis at least early in a hospital, because every family is starting to institutionalize one case at least of cancer. So these are science-driven mechanism or workflows that we are solving. And hence, I would say that India is way ahead in paving the path with all the 3 adverbs that I used for AI.
That's great. And yes, as you rightly said, numbers don't lie. And the Indian startup ecosystem is actually doing really well and really great in AI. And we have our co-panelists here. So I'll move to Professor Ganesh. Professor Ganesh, you built BharatGen, and one of the largest receiver of government funding under India AI mission. 988 crore is not a small amount. Institutions and startups, how could they collaborate? Because right now, a lot of hand-holding is needed for startups to grow. So how the research institutions could actually handhold startups, or how they could collaborate so that we, as we have big numbers in AI startups, they just not remain numbers for, starting up and shutting down. They should actually grow their revenue model. They should actually scale. So what is required?
Thank you. I think collaboration has been in the DNA of BharatGen. It is Genesis itself. It's a consortium of 9 academic institutes. While IIT Bombay is leading it, we have IIIT Hyderabad, IIT Kanpur, IIT Mandi. We also have IIT Hyderabad, IIT Kharagpur, IIIT Delhi, and an Indian Institute of Management. I like to highlight that, which is IIM Indore, which is doing a fabulous job in data collection from second-tier cities, from libraries which probably none of these big AI companies would bother to approach. So collaboration is in our DNA. And that's how we've been creating benchmarks by visiting libraries with, which are actually waiting for their data to be digitized, right? So that's point number 1. The other aspect of collaboration for us is that we are set up through a Section 8 company. So there's a not-for-profit company based out of IIT Bombay, where we do pay handsome salaries. We have a strong team of 50. We have someone heading us who's actually spent 25 years in Seattle. Our VP has come back after maybe 3 decades in the US after a PhD at UIOC. He's a graduate of IIT Delhi. So we're also getting back good talent. And in fact, we were at a recent roadshow in the US where we saw a lot of traction. There are a lot of, actually, I agree with you completely. Many of our own alumni, they're actually so happy to see a model like this because this is a very unique model in the world, a collaborative model. So I wanted to impress upon you 50 top talent, full-time hirees with more than 100 collaborations across PhDs, masters. That's collaboration. Now, coming to collaboration with startup, because of this collaborative nature, what we've been doing, and we've been reaching out to multiple companies, fintech, healthcare, we already have collaborations, and you can go to the website and see some of them. We recently had a big announcement with IBM. So IBM does recognize our sovereign models, right? And they're building solutions on top of that. And that has also got us enough bandwidth, right? So we don't create bandwidth within us. We create bandwidth through collaboration. So here's a call. If you're a startup, you would like to collaborate, please reach out. We may take time because honestly, we are swamped, right? There's just too much being expected. But our intent is to collaborate. And what does collaboration give us? The ability to co-invent. We built a whole bunch of small language models, 2.9 billion parameters, all on Hugging Face. We also built domain-specific models. We built a legal-specific small language model, a finance model, a model for healthcare, a model for agriculture. Now there'll be one coming out for cyber. A whole bunch is going to come out, right? And what happened is because of these small language models which have domain-specific, it aroused the interest of startups in those specific sectors. So look at our models. And please do let us know that the advantage that academia gives us, I must really highlight this, is thinking beyond the run-of-the-mill, right? How do you ensure that the speech data you get is tokenized in a way that does justice to our accents? We don't have as much data. Yes, we are collecting a lot of data, but we don't have as much data as some of these large OpenAIs and the Groks of the world have. But what we do have is, because of the academic ecosystem, we can rethink models. And we have done that. We publish papers routinely. how do you ensure that the data you're collecting from 5 different vendors has the right sanity check, right? And how do you do capacity building? In fact, 5 vendors from whom we have got a lot of speech data, we have been building their capacity. We built an agentic framework to ensure that metadata is clean, to ensure that deduplication is avoided, thanks to our solid engineering team. Now, this is also capacity building. So startup engagement is both, where we co-create, but where we also source data. I hope that gets you excited.
Gagandeep, I'm going to be coming to you next. Gagandeep is doing some fantastic work at -0. All of you who are auto enthusiasts, vehicle enthusiasts would know that there is this new, thing that we are all obsessed with now, and that's ADAS and AD, and that's autonomous mobility, and how you can just let the car drive wherever you're sitting and just see the magic, how it happens. It's already on Indian roads and many cars now available. So, Gagandeep, help us understand. You used to always think that only in foreign roads you can have this facility very, seamlessly work. Because in Indian roads, you have to encounter sitting cows, you have to encounter potholes, you have to encounter any running person from anywhere. Somebody very close to me says, ये इंसान प्रकट होता है रोड पर, चलता नहीं है Indian roads पर. How do you handle that?
I think this is where the recent trend, I know if you have been following the industry as a whole, there is a new word that is coming up. Okay, we had initially what we call digital AI, LLM disrupted the digital language space. Then we said, okay, language and vision. Now people are saying, okay, AI can generalize so well on these modalities, why it cannot do actions, right? That's why you might have seen that Tesla's humanoid Optimus, that cool demos that they have been doing. So this new emerging field has started coming, we call them large action models, right? How do you make a foundational model and think of this like LLM kind of a model, take actions, understand like a human, not hardcore rule that, okay, if you see a cow, you should stop. They say, okay, let it mimic the way a human learns to drive. Like we do very reactive driving. Most of the time, if you follow rules in India, you will be an unsafe driver. So that is what we have been building a foundational model which can actually ingest data, like see what cameras are seeing and tell, okay, what action should it take? Right? And that is what making it possible. If you see our demos, we had been making a car drive where, suddenly there is a guy coming on the opposite side of the road and taking, or other example, in an expressway, there is an auto rickshaw on an expressway coming on the wrong side. Right? So I think, but with this data in AI first approach, that is now becoming possible. So you learn the art of driving rather than trying to hard code a lot of rules. So right now the ADAS that you see in the market, that is like that. And so what we are saying, okay, this technology, Tesla has, that's why Tesla has one of the best autopilot on the planet. So we're looking, okay, can we democratize that technology to all other OEMs? Because OEMs they build hardware, they don't know how to build AI or software. Can we build that Android counterpart to, let's say, iOS here? Tesla is like an iOS. Can we build Android for all, Tatas and Mahindras of the world?
Great. So now we have talked about mission critical applications. We have talked about partnerships. We have talked about auto sector and applications of. So, but then now I come to fintech. Cashfree is one of the leading players in the fintech ecosystem. But a lot of data here comes into play. A lot of responsible AI or ethical use of AI is required. So how does that work at Cashfree? I want to understand.
Yeah, so I think there are two parts to the problem. In one sense, we as Cashfree offer, AI-related, I would say, services or products. For instance, things like fraud detection, doing KYC, which is somewhat similar to the DigiYatra experience. So here, I think when we work with regulated entities, it's always a human-in-the-loop kind of a scenario. So that's what the regulator says. We usually pitch to regulated entities like banks or, let's say, NBFCs, or we are also regulated ourselves. So it's usually a human-in-the-loop. So whatever the AI does, you have to have, like a checker, in the background. Which is again what happens in DigiYatra. If you go to the airport, the security person actually looks at you before letting you in. So that is one part. And then the second part of it is where we are the consumer of AI as a business, like everyone else, for things like how we do customer care, right? Automating our customer care processes, automating our onboarding processes, helping us make sense of our data better. So here I would agree. I think there is some sort of, to be honest, we haven't even thought about it. I think we are also not sure how much of our data we want to expose to the models. I think it starts with us knowing, to a certain extent, it starts with framing a policy. So for instance, your data protection bill could have something. I mean, I think we haven't even started thinking about it. So first we think about it. It reflects in the law. And how it is solved is probably, I think there will be a lot of infra companies that come about. So maybe you can envisage something like, role-based access control kind of, infra coming in, because I think a lot of AI that we have seen, that is working is, infrastructure companies, right? You start with the, the processor, AI native processor, AI native cloud, AI native database. So everything is just, switching to AI native mode. So I think we'll have something similar. Like I think a lot of infra work is happening right now. When it comes to us, like where we are the application layer, I think it's not yet very easy to, I think, get the results, I would say, right? So I think, so yes, in short, I think there needs to be some role-based access control kind of systems, and we need to put thought into, what we are actually comfortable with sharing. I think we are not yet quite clear.
Right, Samhita, I'll come to you next, and I want to ask you, what does it truly take to convince, enterprises to adopt AI when it comes to operations where failure isn't an option truly?
And I have an addition to that question on building a product from a research stage to a pilot and making it market ready, especially an AI product. How are the investors reacting to it?
Fantastic. I started it with the beginning, two powerhouses asking the question. So thank you so much. I'll try my best. I'll go with the investors reacting. I see tremendous amount of propensity in investors. We're backed by Kalari, huge support from Vani Kola herself, who is invested in tech that is not just deep, but really is solving world problems. So we also are backed by Java, which is a US-based Bhargavi Vijay Kumar. So we see a lot of investors that we are talking to. I have at least 2 emails every month requesting for a conversation on the product that we have built. Now, that is again data and evidence that investors are keen to invest in products that are simplifying, yet at the same time solving for a real-world problem. Now, the next question that you have, the first question that you asked is how are you going about having a dialogue on AI being at scale, and what drives that adoption? Show them the money. I think for natural disasters, I always say we are sitting at 4 seasons. What if there was a scenario where I could show you on the dashboard or on any desktop device or a phone that you have, what is the risk exposure of this building today if flood happens? I'm very sure it will at least edge the right side of your mind, which is called the curious mind. I want to know my score before the flood happens. By the way, we are not forecasting floods. We are not forecasting any season. We're just telling you, if flood happens today at 4 seasons and around this area, what is my risk? Fast forward, we are also able to tell you why the risk is at a particular level. And this risk, the way you look at it, is in a map view. You use Google Maps, you use Uber, you know how to read a map, it's the same view. Now, the way for adoption is when I tell you that if 4 seasons doesn't stay tomorrow, what's the financial damage? How many people will not turn up? How many footfall will they lose? For example, we just did a research-based work because there was a storm called Shan. It's in the US. I won't go into the details. But one of the large marts, which we call the Walmarts of one of the equivalents, they were shut down for 3 months because of flood. $11 million of damages because they were shut down. We could show them the money. That drives adoption. It's universal with government and private sector. Money does not discriminate how you operate in governance, be it government or be it a private sector.
Okay. Professor, I'll come to you next. I want to understand when it comes to the role of academia. How do you see the role going forward from here when it comes to nurturing AI startups, nurturing talent, and leading greater industry collaboration going forward? Do you think enough is happening? Because there was one thought from the industry constantly saying we're not getting employable skill sets. So if you could address that point.
I think there's a lot of potential of leveraging the technological advancement largely anchored by our own people in the US, right? I'm referring to US largely also to the Bay Area, where I was recently for a roadshow, as I mentioned. While people there are excited about the models being the model by which we are collaborating in India, right? Instead of creating a monopoly, there's a kind of public good being created. There is also the need we feel that there is probably a generation gap between what happens here and what happens in the Silicon Valley. Now, finding mechanisms by which we can collaborate, right? Have several of those people who are interested. China had this 1,000 Scholars Return program. Now, can our industries in India facilitate that? Right? Of course, the government also has an intent. I think that's the first important aspect, right? Getting talent back. And getting talent back not just on a voluntary basis, but on a professional basis. It'll be great to have several of our faculty well-wishers in many of the US universities also collaborate. And there have been good efforts, positive efforts from our Heritage Fund, from well-wishers in the Bay Area, and they have extended their support. A second very important point is to have strategic partnerships. Now with large companies, especially alluding to the partnership we have with IBM, if you have large companies who also have data, government, obviously all the state governments sit on data. If you had partnerships which ensure sovereignty, which ensure that there is local data, air gap solutions where they are required, and co-creation, which means there's attribution to the models that are actually created together. I think this will also ensure that we get very good talent, because talent is not just the AI talent, but the ops talent, right? So, creating opportunities through strategic partnerships, both on the data front as well as the business opportunities and the talent front. I would say that's the need of the hour.
Gagan, I would really want to understand from you, beyond tech, what are the policy, infra or ecosystem support startups like you need to come into mainstream? Yeah.
Got it. I think this will just draw attention when you were telling, right, how many AI startups are there, right? So that is very clear that Indians are leading the way in building AI startups. But there is one angle that we are not looking. If anyone followed, there was something called Skip India movement on the Twitter. Founders were glorifying that, investors were. And most of the investors are right now doing that US corridor, India corridor load rather than building for India. Why is that the case? I think that is the question that we want to look at. I'll just maybe talk about particularly our sector, where I see in auto sector two major problems. Auto sector as a whole, see, we are just a software layer. To build a car, there are to be a lot of things to come together. Auto sector is still very socialist. Government protects, let's say, a lot. Today, and what happens due to that is, talk the GST thing, right? Really good bikes and cars. Now, for those OEMs, it's not a lucrative market anymore. And usually any technology has to come from premium and then goes to mass market. India doesn't have that premium segment that is getting developed. And that is why, we do not have a phone company coming out of India or a GPU company coming out of India unless you are able to sell to outside. That's where Space Tech did. Most of their clients are outside. And this is one part where, we need to make certain change. So, yeah.
Okay. I'll come to you and Reeju in the end and try to understand how difficult and challenging is it to integrate AI into the regulated financial systems as of now, and going forward, how are you going to be seeing this tackled?
Yeah, so I think the challenge is not in integrating, I would say. I think it is in getting results that are good enough so that it adds actual value. I think today the models are good. Maybe talent could be there a bit more, but I think that missing, like as I was saying, of the infra is maybe missing. So it takes us a lot of effort to get to results, that help us, actually gain value. For instance, if I want to automate our customer support and make AI answer most of it, for tangible benefits, we need to ensure 80% of the queries are answered by AI and they give us a better satisfaction rating than humans. To do that, it takes us, let's say, 1 year, 1.5 years, and a lot of developers working. So we need those tools that make the idea, things like data annotation, the context engineering, all of that very easy. I mean, in the internet age, you had companies like AWS and Shopify, which made it really easy to build a business. So we'll need those, I would say, analogous companies in AI before we can, really start growing very, very fast. I think right now it's there, but it's not easy enough. the learning curve is very high relatively. So that is the shift. I think once that happens, then we will see adoption.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Reeju, Gagan, and Professor Ganesh and Samhita for being with us for this fascinating, insightful conversation that we've actually had. This could have gone on, but we have one more session to go. So thank you so much for being with us. I'd now like to request Masuma to please come up on stage to present a token of appreciation to all our esteemed panelists right here. Warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for all our panelists. Warmest round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Samhita, Professor Ganesh, Gagandeep, as well as Reeju, for those insightful talks and conversations that we've just had with each one of them.